name is Barbara. Welcome to my kitchen. And in today's episode of Cooking with Love, I'm going to do an old family favorite. It's an Italian recipe from my grandmother and my Aunt Mary, who showed me how to make it. It's called Escarole and Beans, but as we would say it, it's Escarole and Beans. Escarole is from the chicory family. It's a little bit bitter, but it's an excellent vegetable, very good for you. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to make. So let's get started. The ingredients we need for today's recipe for the Escarole and Beans are chicken broth, pepperoni. I'm going to use, you don't have to use pepperoni, you could certainly just use the Escarole and Beans. You can also use some ham if you like. That's another thing that we like to have. I'm going to have some fresh garlic, which I'm going to mince. You could also just slice the garlic if that's your preference. I like to have minced garlic. Some chopped onion, extra virgin olive oil, salt, pepper, and a little bit of crushed red pepper. And we have our head of escarole, which I'm going to chop. You may remember we also used escarole in our Italian wedding soup with little meatballs, and we'll send the link below so that you can look at that recipe if you'd like also. The first step is to start sauteing a little olive oil in our pot. Start it at about medium. I'm just using enough to coat the bottom of the pan. I'll let that warm, and then we're going to add the onion to that. And we'll cook that for a few minutes until it's translucent, and then we'll continue. In the meantime, I'm going to start chopping my escarole. And remember to wash it really well. It's grown in sand. It's a very sandy kind of a vegetable that gets in the leaves, so you really want to wash it well, and then I dry it off. Good. So while this is sauteing, I'm going to start chopping the escarole. Our onions are nice and translucent, so at this point I'm going to add the garlic that I minced. I used a few cloves of garlic. Again, it's preference and your taste. I'm just going to let this saute for a minute and then add some chicken broth, a little bit of chicken broth. Our garlic is ready. At this point we could just add a little bit of chicken broth, but because I'm adding the pepperoni, I'm going to saute that first for a minute or two and then add the escarole to this. Just stir it. Our pepperoni looks perfect. So at this point, I'm just going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Again, preference. Our broth does have salt in it, so I want to be careful with that. I'm also going to add some fresh red pepper flakes. That is grown in the yard. And my neighbor roasted it for me. Just give it a whirl, and I'm going to add a little bit of chicken broth, just a tiny bit. I don't want the garlic to burn. I'll leave it on for a second, and then I'm going to add the escarole. I'm going to add the escarole in, and it will cook down. I have all the escarole in the pot, and what I'm going to do now is cover it and let it wilt for a few minutes, and then we're going to add a little more broth in our beans. Our escarole is starting to wilt, so I'm going to add a little more chicken broth to it, and it'll cook down, and then we can add our beans in a few minutes. This is just about done, another few minutes. What I'm going to do is now add the beans. I use cannellini beans, and I washed and rinsed them very well. You can use dried beans and let them soak overnight and use them. You can also use kidney beans if you like, but we like the cannellini beans. So I'll give this a quick toss and let it simmer again another 10-15 minutes. Our escarole is done and ready to eat. I'm going to put a little bit in the plate. The best way to serve it, I like it with a little grated cheese on it and a little piece of homemade fresh bread. My brother Steve made fresh ciabatta bread. And here you go. We'll have a taste test. Time to taste it. Very good. Reminds me of the good old days. And the bread with it, be wonderful. We used to sop up all the juice with the bread. Hope you enjoyed it. Look for the link below for the recipe. And again, it's a very easy recipe to do.